Hello and welcome to the very first edition of Behind the Scenes with CTE. On this month's episode, we're going to be interviewing Dr. John Arnold, a practicing anesthesiologist who is full of knowledge and experience that we cannot wait to share with all of our medical pathway students. So let's get started. Hi, Dr. Arnold. We are so excited to have you here with us on our very first episode of Behind the Scenes with CTE. Welcome on.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here.
Awesome. So before we go ahead and get started, I just wanted to let you know about Keller ISD's medical health science pathway. So here in Keller ISD, we have a medical health science pathway with around 3,000 students, give or take a few, but it kind of is an umbrella pathway that encompasses all the fields of the medical industry, and it's one of our largest pathways here in Keller ISD, and I know the students are really excited to hear from you, and we actually got a few of them to ask us individualized questions for you today. But before we go ahead and get started with all of that, go ahead and tell us a little bit about your background, your journey through the medical industry, and then medical school, of course, as well.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm happy to be here. I was born and raised here in Texas, grew up in a small town, Northeast Texas, in Commerce, and farm boy, grew up on a farm and went to a very small school. But both parents were teachers and knew that college was inevitable and that was not an option. So I always did well in school, but when I went off to college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Had always known farming, and so that was the only thing I knew, was going to be a farmer. But once I got into college and started taking classes and did well, had a chemistry teacher pull me aside one day and asked what I wanted to do for my life, and I told him I had no idea, but I thought I was going to be a farmer. And he said, "No, you're going to go to medical school. And so I want you to start looking into medical stuff." And it had never occurred to me to do that. But I did start pursuing that end, and just really enjoyed it. The science and the classes that were involved with it. Worked my way towards a pre-med degree, and then I took the entrance exam for medical school. Did well on that, and was admitted to the UT Southwestern Medical School. University of Texas Southwestern Medical School in Dallas, and spent 4 years there in medical school. And towards the end of your schooling, you start choosing your specialty. I fell in love with anesthesiology and positioned myself there for a residency there at Parkland Hospital in Dallas, and I completed that with fellowship training in transplant anesthesia and cardiothoracic, and then went on into practice. And I've been in practice for 26 years now here in the Metroplex.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I know you just said that your residency was at Parkland Hospital, right, in Dallas?
Right.
Did you like that? What was that like?
Oh, it was very busy, a lot of work, a lot of excitement. It's a tour of duty, but it was great training and exposure to almost everything you can imagine in medicine. So it prepared me well for practice.
Yeah, I bet Parkland's huge. Okay, so then we're gonna go ahead and to make this as informational and reliable as possible for our students. Like I was saying before, we've compiled a couple questions from some of our medical health science students, and so we'll go ahead and get started with those. So our first question is from Mac, so let's go ahead and take a listen.
Hi, my name is Mac, and I was wondering why you chose to be an anesthesiologist versus something like a physician or a nurse.
Yeah, well, an anesthesiologist is a physician. You may be referring to a family practice doctor or a general practitioner, which that's a very common misconception. Most people's view of a physician is the family doctor that everyone knew, but specialists are physicians as well. we all go to the same medical school, but towards the end of our training, you choose a specialty, and a family practice doctor chooses family practice as his specialty. Dermatologist, dermatology, neurosurgeon, anesthesiologist, cardiologist. All of us are specialists, but we're all physicians. A nurse anesthetist is a nurse who specializes in anesthesia, and then a nurse obviously went to nursing school and is a nurse. So there's a difference there, but an anesthesiologist is a specialist in medicine.
Awesome. So then we'll go ahead and move on to our next question from Reagan.
Hi, Dr. Arnold. I was wondering, having been through everything that you've been through in your career, if you had the chance, would you go back and change anything, like your specialty or what college you went to or how you got through all of your medical classes?
Your question is, would I go back and change anything? No. No, I feel very happy to have come through what I've been through and where I've landed. I was very happy to have gone to a small college because the class numbers were smaller and you got good attention there. You always had access to the professors. Obviously in the fall on college game day, I envy some of the bigger college alums because of, their connection to the large colleges during football season. But as far as education goes, the small college really served its purpose well in your accessibility to the professors. You're typically taught by professors rather than graduate assistants or TAs. And so it was a great experience. I had a great experience at a smaller college. I went to East Texas State University, which is now Texas A&M Commerce. But then I would not change my specialty. Towards the end of your medical school, you're exposed to all the different specialties in your third and fourth year. And your fourth year is built on electives. You take electives in the specialty that you're seeking or that you feel like you may have some interest in. And so the medical school themselves, they see to it that you have the opportunity to look into what you might like the best and make a good choice for yourself. So very happy with that.
Awesome. So then we'll go ahead and move on to our next question from Cade and Easton.
Hello, I'm Cade. I'm Easton. And we were wondering what your favorite part of medical school was.
My favorite part of medical school would have been probably the hardest part, in all honesty. Your third year is clinicals. When you start actually hands-on training, taking care of people, learning procedures, and learning what's important and what's not. Your first 2 years are just didactics. Typically, the first year of medical school is studying the normal human. Second year is studying the abnormal human or the diseased human. And then the third year is putting that all together and actually working with patients and starting to learn some clinical skills, what's important, what's not. And so the third year is definitely the hardest. It's the most hours. You're working somewhere between 90 and 110 hours a week. And so you're exhausted. However, that's where the rubber meets the road. When you start learning what is important in medicine, how to take care of someone, and then you start experiencing the good outcomes and the bad, and start building your fund of knowledge of truly application of what you've learned. And so probably the third year would have been my favorite part of medical school, even though it was the hardest and most stressful and physically taxing.
Yeah, I think sometimes people find that whenever you have those really big challenges, it kind of gives you a sort of inspiration, and then you kind of see this is what it's all for, but that's crazy. I never knew it was 90 to 100 hours a week. That is a lot.
I think they had some 10 to 15 years ago, they put a limit on that. They saw that it was becoming dangerous in some instances, and for patient care reasons, now there is a limit as to the number of hours you can put in.
Yeah, but I was going to say that
I
has
came
to be
to medical
pretty...
school prior to that rule, and
right.
So they just run you in the ground. But
that's
it was
crazy.
Good. It was a
it
good
had to
kind
have
of
been
times.
really exhausting. I can imagine. but I think that it was all worth it in the end. So we'll go ahead and move on to our next question, and it comes from Ethan. But I think a lot of us have been wondering, this same kind of thing. But let's listen.
Hello. My question is, was medical school as hard as everyone makes it seem to be?
Yeah. How hard was medical school? It was difficult, and what you hear is true. It's difficult, but that's to be expected, and you want it that way. Um, you know, Society wants someone who's been through the ringers to be their doctor because um, not just everyone can or will do that.
Right.
But if you treat it like a job and every day have a routine of studying and preparing and kind of living your life towards that end, it ends up not being nearly as hard as you expected.
Yeah, I bet you got really good with time management. You'd have to. I would
You
think.
have to. You have to. And so looking from the outside, it is difficult. But once you get into it, and if you set up a routine where you're studying every day and treating it like studying the number of hours that you would have worked a regular job, then you'll get there. And it's really, I would do it over again, without question. But it was hard while I was in there. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally understand what you mean by that. And I think that by it being difficult, do you think that gave you a lot more drive to continue through it, especially like towards the middle of medical school, just by knowing that I've already come so far, I've already.
yes, yeah. If you once you start down that road and you see that all of your cohorts, all of your compadres are doing the same thing. That's one unique part of medical school that's different from other schools, high school, college, where everybody's kind of scattered and doing their own thing and heading towards their own goals. In medical school, everybody has a unified goal. You're trying to get through it all together. So there'll be a typical class has 200 students in it, and you're all in it together. And so as you see them going through the same thing you are, it's, it boosts your confidence that you're in it with the team, and so everybody's in it together. And so if they can do it, you can do it. And so it really helps you, I think, knowing that everybody's going through the same pain.
Right. So by it being such a small class, do you think that makes it more collaborative or competitive?
There's a little of both, really is. They will set you up in study groups or lab, by virtue of you being placed in a lab or your study area and your mailbox and everything is in a certain area. And at Southwestern, they simply cordoned you off by 4 at a time in alphabetical order. But the 3 guys that I ended up being near we're still best of friends after 26, 30 years, since we started. But
So I bet you do get really, really close to those groups then, just because you're with them all the time.
those are your study partners, and you're spending all day and all night up there together. Now you'll go off into specialty, groups when you get into your clinicals, and you'll separate a little bit. But for those first 2 years, you're taking every test together, studying for every test together. When there's a test, all 200 of you are taking it together. So there's a lot of camaraderie there.
Mm-hmm.
But competitiveness is always there. Positioning in the class is very important in getting the residency that you want. So if you're seeking a highly competitive field, highly competitive specialty, you have to position yourself high in the class. And so there's a lot of competition, and so you
have to be
striving
really
to be
willing.
the best, but everybody's kind of in it together,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So if you do want those particularly competitive spots for residency, you really have to be willing to put in the work with does it go off grades, I assume, from medical school?
It did when I came through, and I think there's some change now, but in certain schools. But it's grades and it's class position, or that is gold. So
Awesome. Awesome. So then we'll go ahead and move on to our next question that comes from Jocelyn. And I think it's a fantastic question because I think it's really relevant to those pursuing or expecting to pursue a career in the medical field. So we'll go ahead and hear it now.
Hi. What advice would you give someone who wants to go into the medical field but doesn't know what specialty yet? And is there a way that they can figure out, like, which one they think would fit them best or which one they like the most? Thank you.
In my experience, and the people I've observed over time, it's typically better to go in not knowing what specialty you want to be in. That way you're open-minded to all of them.
Right.
And the medical school, the folks, the dean of students and the advisors there will see to it that you are exposed to and have the opportunity to see what field you want.
Right, because you may be set on something and then come to find out you experience another
Right.
different kind of specialty and it just fits you a lot better. Does that happen often for people to go into medical school like really set on one particular area of focus and then end up
Yes.
changing?
It's very common. As a matter of
Gotcha.
fact, I would say that's probably the prevalence is that someone goes in with their mind's eye to being a pediatrician, or well, I'm going to be a neurosurgeon, or my dad was a orthopedic surgeon, and I'm going to be too. But once you get there and you see, how the practice actually unfolds, you may change. And so the happiest people are the folks who go in really with an open mind to all specialties, not knowing what they want to do, and taking what really comes to them, what really appeals to them. Folks who kind of paint themselves into a corner, you run the risk of getting into something that you won't be happy with long term.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go in with an open mind.
Right, and you definitely want to keep an open mind also because of how extensive, getting ready for that career is. So I can totally see how keeping an open mind throughout medical school can be really beneficial into your future career goals. So we'll go ahead and move on to our next question from Alexis, and we'll go ahead and play it now.
Hi, my name is Alexis Bamer and I go to Keller High School, and I was just wondering what kind of advice you would give to a high school student wanting to become a doctor.
All right. Yeah. Advice for a high school student going into it. Number one, you want to do well in school. Your grades will be looked at, obviously, by admissions committees going forward. But good grades are not all of it. They're not looking for robots that just turn out A's. A lot of admissions committees really put a lot of weight on your activities. They want to see that you're a well-rounded person. Whether it be athletics, band, clubs, volunteering, but it's very important to be a well-rounded student. Yes, if you're just an A machine and you're top of your class and everything, there will be a place for you. But the admissions committees know that not everyone's like that, and that they are looking for a well-rounded person who not only made good grades, but was very active in school. They like an active, well-rounded person who is able to hold it together, hold good grades together, despite the fact they have a lot of activities after school too. So it's very important in high school to be involved, embrace high school. It's going to go away, and then you'll regret it. And so be as involved and enjoy it as much as possible, because your activities are highly sought after by admissions committees. Another thing is you might consider, whether in high school or in college, doing some work in a hospital or in a medical setting, whether it be volunteering at a clinic, volunteering at the hospital, getting a part-time job as an orderly or a transporter, anything that can allow you to tell someone during an interview, well, how do you know that you want to be a doctor? Have you ever done anything in medicine? You want to be able to answer, yes, I did. I did this. I worked for a summer as, at a candy strapper or a transporter or something like that. They want to know that you have pursued that and saw and seen for yourself whether this is an environment that you would like.
Right, right. So when you're in your undergrad, I guess, what's the best way to continue that well-roundedness?
Once you get to college, seeking out coursework, as far as elective, all your pre-med classes are going to be the same. And so they're going to expect you to do well in those, but they like to see that you have pursued other intellectual interests and curiosities. They like to see a curiosity out of your curriculum or out of your transcripts, say languages, study abroad, really kind of pushing the envelope as far as, you weren't taking just easy throwaway classes and things. They like to see intellectual curiosity where you've taken something that, even though it was elective, it was challenging to you. And so it broadened your perspective. They like to see broad-minded, broad perspective and curiosities chased down, and then continuing activities and, seeking out positioning yourself in medicine also.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so our next question is going to be from Chloe. And this question is pretty essential, and not just for the medical field, but really in any sort of career areas. So we'll go ahead and put it up now.
Since we're both interested in going to medical school, we were wondering, how do you manage your time and keep on track without falling behind?
The best thing I can tell you as far as structuring your day or, working out time management is just a disciplined approach. And you can't be hardcore studier all day long. You need to get some rest, try to set up a structured day where you're treating your studies like a job. And you're going to go to class in the mornings during your didactic first 2 years, but also set aside times for breaks. Take regular breaks, get out and exercise, eat a reasonable diet, and get plenty of rest. I know it sounds hard with a 90 to 100-hour week in your third year, and finding rest during that time is tough. But during your first 2 years, certainly you can actually structure your day really well, where you have a certain study time, you have a certain break time set aside, and leisure time to kind of ease your mind. A lot of studies have shown that you will retain a lot more if you will take regular breaks. And so sort of a disciplined structuring of your day is the best advice I would give you. And you can just sit down and write it out and stick to it. And so as you get into it, you learn to do that better.
Right. And so, so time management is a big, big deal. It really helps to have good time management. So we'll go ahead and move on to our last question from the students. And I'm really excited to hear your response for this question, because I think that it's kind of the reason why we all do what we want to do or what careers we're looking into. So we'll go ahead and take a listen to Courtney.
Hi, my name is Courtney Pace. I go to Keller Central High School, and my question is, what is the most inspiring part of your career?
I think in my specialty, it is knowing that you are the ultimate gatekeeper and the ultimate caregiver for someone during the most stressful time in their life, during surgery. Most people will have surgery in their life 1 or 2 times, sometimes some people multiple times, but that's certainly one of the most stressful times in their life. And for them to hand their total care over to you, all their defenses, their physiology, their response to pharmacology is all in your hands. Their life is in your hands during their surgery. So that's a great honor. And that's probably the most inspiring thing about what I do, is that you take someone who's just a bundle of nerves, worried, thinking the worst, and make it all go well for them, and with a good outcome, and get them back home safely to their families, or get them through a very dire, unstable situation and make a shoestring catch and pulling them out of a really bad, dire situation. So the thing that inspired me to go into anesthesia initially was seeing the calm come over a room when during a code situation when the anesthesiologist walked in. I was a impressionable young third-year medical student, had no clue even what an anesthesiologist was, and in trauma 1 in Parkland Hospital on a bad trauma night, gunshot wound, the anesthesiology resident comes in, calms the entire situation down, sort of fixes the guy, and that was a paramount moment to me. That right there, that's what I wanted to be, that guy. And so to be able to help someone through a stressful situation and knowing that you're in total care of them, that's inspiring to me.
That's one of the reasons, we all kind of are looking forward to what we do. And I think that being able to say, oh, I'm inspired by my job every day is an awesome thing to be able to do. All right, so that was our final student question, and this has been such amazing information for our medical and health science students. And I'd like to thank you again for being here with us today. But I do have one more thing that I'd like to go ahead and ask you before we wrap up, and that is, if you could give one piece of advice to our students that are pursuing a career in the medical field, what would you give?
Do everything that you can to assure yourself that you are finding your passion in life, whatever it may be, and something that that you will enjoy for the rest of your life. Because you need to love what you do, no matter what it is, and no matter what the gain from it is. You need to love what you do and have a passion for it, so that every day you get up, you attack it with vigor and happiness. Don't be painted into a corner, and don't go into something that you don't enjoy. This is a long haul, and it's a lot of commitment. So you really need to like it, and really need to love it to do it. And so make sure that this is what you want to do. And the best way to do that is try to expose yourself to it and learn about it, seek it, dig into it, and see if you truly like it before you launch on this long road.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here with me today, Dr. Arnold, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your afternoon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Skylar.
Thank you so much for tuning in to our very first edition of Behind the Scenes with CTE. We really hope that this information has been inspiring and insightful for any students encouraged to pursue a career in the medical field. We hope you will be able to join us again next month, where we will be highlighting the teaching and training pathway here in Keller ISD. We will be interviewing a school counselor from Fossil Ridge High School, and we cannot wait to see what questions you have to offer them. Feel free to scan the QR code or click on the link in the description to submit your questions to be featured in our next podcast. Thank you for watching Behind the Scenes with CTE.